Stop killing games. Nerds across the world have had enough of multi-billion-dollar corporations who, like the teacher at school nobody likes, keeps taking their toys away. Miss, just because you're going through a bad divorce doesn't mean you get to steal. Save that for the courtroom. Stop Killing Games is a movement with more than 1.2 million supporters who, despite being largely responsible for the signage around video game conventions reminding you to shower and ask for consent before touching someone, also have a legitimate axe to grind, as well as a few alts. Their beef is this: when modern video games are no longer profitable, like racehorses, they are immediately put down, never to run again. The Stop Killing Games movement insists that this practice of deliberately making games unplayable should be illegal, and I agree. Lock up the devs of Overwatch 2 immediately. Critics of this movement have said, in a really cool, deep voice, that this initiative is unrealistic. But what is unrealistic about actually owning something that you paid money for? What should be unrealistic is a billion-dollar corporation charging you $100 for the privilege of temporarily playing a game that at any moment, with no warning and no reason, can be stolen directly from your computer. I'm Lewis Spears. Welcome back to Lou Review. Like, subscribe, and let's break it down. Stop Killing Games, more like come and see me live. I'm going to Canberra, Sydney, Frankston, louspears.com, and then I'm going all over England, Scotland, and Ireland. Come and see me. Tickets are on sale now and going quick. The Stop Killing Games movement is something that I'm very interested in and that I really care about and I think is super, super cool. And for a long time, it looked like they would not get the amount of signatures they needed for the European Union to take a look at this thing. But as of recording, the Stop Killing Games petition has 1.2 million signatures. Now, hopefully, most of these signatures, or all of these signatures, actually are from people that reside in the EU. If you reside in the EU, go and sign this petition, because if you don't live there, it doesn't count and it will be removed. So, yes, we've got more than a million signatures, and that's the minimum requirement, but if 300,000 people are from America and Australia and all the other countries, they'll be removed from the petition. So if you're from the EU, go and sign it now. Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. This practice is a form of planned obsolescence and is not only detrimental to customers, but makes preservation effectively impossible. Furthermore, the legality of this practice is largely untested in many countries. This Stop Killing Games petition is designed to protect your ability to keep a product that you have paid good money for. This is a real bad problem with video games, and it's only getting worse. These big developers want us to live in a world where we will own nothing and be very unhappy, but have nothing to do about it. This petition wants to solve that issue. Now, a big reason why I care about this petition is because I've been personally affected by it many, many times. Like any avid gamer has, there are at least 5 games I could list off the top of my head that I loved that I am not allowed to play anymore despite paying for it, despite having the files downloaded onto my computer. They have been intentionally bricked and made unplayable by the company I paid money to purchase the game from. The biggest example, in my life at least, was a game that I loved to bits that I played when it came out until the day they shut the servers down, Warhammer Online. I love this game so much, and the game died. The game shut down, and it is no longer playable at all in any legitimate way. Multiverses is another game that I really liked. They shut it down. They've said the game will be playable offline for the foreseeable future, but who knows how long that will be. At any point, Warner Brothers could just delete the game entirely, like they've been known to do with their own films. Another video game was shut down very recently called Anthem. No one's really mourning this loss, but the thing is, people paid good money to play this game, and now they can't. It's just been completely deleted. This is a really bad thing for so many reasons. I mean, the biggest reason is obviously I've paid money for something. I should be able to do whatever I want with that product, right? That just makes sense. I bought it, you sold it to me as a product, now you're taking away my ability to use it. That is stealing. Another reason is, imagine if you're one of the devs on one of these games and you spend literally years of your life building a game, working with the team, and you put it out, it's released, and within a couple of years, it gets completely deleted. You can't show your children. You can't show any new friends that you make. You can't just jump into the world and show people, look, I made this leaf. I spent 8 hours on a Sunday not getting paid overtime making this leaf. Look how amazing it is. You can't even do that. They just have to say, oh, look, I made this video game. There's a couple of images of it online, but other than that, it got stolen and deleted and hidden in a vault by corporate overlords who wanted to make money for shareholders. In response to this type of behavior, gamers have finally risen up. And they've started signing this petition. Now, the reason why this is scaring the shit out of video game developers is because if something gets more than 1 million subscribers in this way in the EU, the parliament there has to at least talk about the issue, and that is how legislation is made. And because the EU is such a giant market, consumer laws that get passed over there usually affect the rest of the planet, because you can't really make a product for just the EU and then a different one everywhere else. It doesn't make sense financially, so it affects the entire world. The best example of this is the European Union made the USB-C cable the standard charging and data cable for the European Union, and because it's such a big market, companies couldn't just go around making a lightning cable for America and Australia and a USB-C for Europe, so they had to just change the standard port to USB-C, and now I don't have 10 billion fucking cables in my house anymore that eventually get wrapped around the necks of sea turtles. This is a great thing that positively impacted my life, and that's something that this petition can do for the rest of us when it comes to video games. I'm actually so inspired by this that I want to move to the EU, become a citizen, and launch my own petition to standardize the size of coffee cups. I am sick to death of walking in to cafes and they've all got different coffee cup sizes and different names for all of those sizes. It should be small, medium, large. I don't want to walk into a Starbucks and order a venti or a grande. It should be small, medium, large, or close your cafe. Standardize the shit. I'm sick of walking into a cafe. I want a large and they call it a jumbo. I'm not calling it a jumbo. I'm 31 years old. That is a large. And don't even get me started on small, medium, extra large. How can you have an extra large if you have no large? Sorry, I'm from Melbourne. I'm very particular about my coffee and my cafes. I can't help it. I'm from Melbourne. Allow me this. Now, we know that this consumer rights movement is working because some of the biggest offenders in this arena have released a statement, a giant lobby group that is consisting of all of the big video game publishers, many of whom have stolen directly from me. They've shut down games that I liked to play. They've released a statement talking about why Stop Killing Games is bad, actually. Statement on Stop Killing Games. We appreciate the passion of our community. However, the decision to discontinue online services is multifaceted, never taken lightly, and must be an option for companies when an online experience is no longer commercially viable. We understand that it can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of the prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection laws. Yeah, for now, we're about to change those laws, motherfucker, and stop you from stealing from us. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure player data, remove illegal content, and combat unsafe community content would not exist and would leave rights holders liable. Well, then change the law. That's what this is about, right? That's a fair concern, right, that these video game companies have. They have a legitimate concern of when a game is online only, especially if they give up control of the servers to private people, and if those private people have the files of the game. What if they modify Batman to be wearing, I don't know, a Nazi cape, and then DC sues the game publisher because now Batman looks like a Nazi? That would be a legitimate concern if I were a giant video game publisher. My answer to that would be, that's why this petition exists, so that it can be put forward into Parliament, so that consumer rights activists and the game publishers can find a medium where everybody is happy. I don't understand how this would be any different from, say, me buying a secondhand book from the op shop, right? If I buy a book that is secondhand that somebody else owned, and I turn to page 300 and someone has drawn a giant penis in it, Obviously, I can't sue the publisher or the author for that because it was modified after they released it. A video game should be exactly the same. If someone fucks with the files of a video game after it's shut down, let's write a law to say, well, the publisher can't really get in trouble for that because they ended the live service as our agreement. How about when a publisher no longer supports a game, it gets given to the players, but it's modified with a giant disclaimer that pops up every time you launch the game that says, this game is no longer supported by any of the publishers. Running it can be a risk to you. There are no community safeguards and there could be viruses in it. Just put a giant fucking disclaimer like you do with epilepsy warnings, all right? If your video game is allowed to give me a seizure and it's fine as long as you go, look out, seizure, I don't see why this would be any different. In addition, many titles are designed from the ground up to be online only. In effect, these proposals would curtail developer choice by making these video games prohibitively expensive to create. Good. I don't see a problem with that at all. Okay. Oh, it's our creative choice to design a game that can intentionally be made non-functional so that we can make as much money as possible from you and then remove our support for it. If that's something that you're doing on purpose, yeah, that should be made illegal because that's just stealing and an abuse of consumer rights. I also don't buy the lie that this would make games prohibitively expensive to create because there are a lot of, legitimate issues with moving a game that is designed to be online only to the private server realm. But it can be done. Perhaps the best example I know of this is a game that I played from launch to the very day that it was shut down. Warhammer Age of Reckoning. This is the best MMO I've ever played. I loved it. It was, for its time, an incredible game, but unfortunately, like a lot of online-only games, the player base dwindled and it was no longer financially viable and it was shut down. Now, that's fine. I have no issue with a game company being like, we can't afford to run this because we're a private business. Totally fine. They remove their support for it. However, what happened next may shock you. Players that were still enjoying the game and not ready to give it up launched private servers of Warhammer Age of Reckoning. Now, they did not steal the server infrastructure or violate copyright, which a lot of these game developers are saying, because it's not just the game itself, the files and the models and all of that, it's also underneath that, the software that runs it, that enables my computer to talk to your computer, the whole server infrastructure, right? Developers that were fans of this game rebuilt servers themselves on their own expense, so didn't violate any copyright and brought the game back to life, and it is still running. Warhammer Age of Reckoning private servers are still running. The game is still being played. I would love to play it, but they have no Australian servers, so I kind of can't without obscene lag, but it still works. Now, technically, this is illegal. Because while they did rebuild from scratch all of the organs, the internal workings of the server and everything, all the stuff you can't see, the stuff that you can see, the models, everything, the orcs, the chaos, the humans, the elves, it's all intellectual property that is not owned by the people that are running it. So it's a legal gray area that the owners of the copyright haven't enforced against them, but would be legally able to do so. So it exists in this gray area, but it is possible, and stuff like this should be completely legal. They're not making any money from it. They don't charge any money. It is purely not for profit. It is just a bunch of people playing a game that they paid money to buy that was taken away from them. And this doesn't harm anyone. And if some people get computer viruses from this, or if there isn't effective community moderation, fine. That's the risk that you take when you enter a private server game. I mean, most video games, when they were created, were like this. There was no such thing as moderation or community management or acceptable terms of use or weird, creepy AI that logs keystrokes and listens to your voice and automatically bans you. All of this shit was added later to appease shareholders not make the player experience better. I remember the times of Counter-Strike 1.6. There were no servers run by Valve. It was all private servers. Valve made the game, they allowed you to buy it on a CD and then eventually to download it, and then it was just completely privately owned servers. This, in many ways, the Stop Killing Games movement is what they are trying to get video games to return to, the genesis of video games. A developer makes a game and then the community owns it and runs their own servers. This should be a possibility in every single game. I think it is incredibly important to be able to do whatever the fuck I want to do with whatever item I buy, because it's mine. Or is it? There have been some big name detractors that do not like the Stop Killing Games movement. Namely, a guy ironically called PirateSoftware. A guy who seemingly advocates for pirating software, but not for consumers to own products that they pay for. So I don't know how that math works, but when you find out that he himself is a developer developing a live service game, the chips start to align. Here is Accursed Farms, the figurehead of the Stop Killing Games movement, responding to criticism made by PirateSoftware, the guy who does not like Stop Killing Games.
Ford does not understand what Stop Killing Games is.
The Stop Killing Games initiatives is basically, we don't want single-player games.
No.
To have DRM that the developers can turn off and thus render the single-player games inactive anymore. This is what they want to change. It would impact every live service game that exists. Instead of just targeting single-player, always online games.
No, that's not what it is.
Take a good look at Accursed Farms. I gotta tell you, this is exactly the type of guy that you want to be the face of a consumer rights movement, all right? A dude that looks like this only has your best interests in mind, okay? This man, at the same time, looks bald, but has more hair than me. I don't know how he does it. He kind of looks like a bald guy standing in front of Weird Al Yankovic. And that's who I want to be in charge of my consumer rights. You're not going to get a normal-looking bloke in charge of that. Those guys are the face of the board of CEOs of video game lobbyists, you know? Evil-looking, handsome, conventionally attractive people. I want a fucking half-bald, half-luscious-locked weirdo running my movement. This is a king.
Our problem is not with licenses failing to inform people. Blizzard says they can take away your purchase for no reason. That sounds pretty clear to me. Our problem is those terms are so hostile to consumers and the medium that they should be taken off the table entirely. This needs regulation.
I 100% agree. Having something in the terms of service that explicitly states we can take this back for no reason at all is just an egregious violation of consumer rights that has never been enforced or tested, and that's what this petition is about. Seeing stuff like that in license agreements is fucking crazy, and whenever I think about stuff like that, I always try to picture that being a conversation with someone I'm buying a product from or someone I'm selling a product to, right? If this was a one-to-one interaction behind a desk in retail, you would leave without buying. If you said, oh yeah, can I get this thing for $40? And the person said, yes, but at any moment for any reason or no reason at all, I can come into your house and take it back and put it in my shop and sell it to no one else ever. You'd be like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to buy anything from you. But because this stuff is like buried underneath pages and pages and pages of service license agreements that no one ever reads, and then it becomes industry standard to the point where you just don't have a choice to either accept these unfair terms or never play a video game ever again. This is why petitions like Stop Killing Games that eventually will hopefully lead to a discussion that introduces fair legislation. This is why this stuff is really important. And I've sold software before. I've put my money where my mouth is. I've sold digital files before, and I've given it to customers without any DRM. My comedy special, Death Threats Don't Scare Me, that's on my website for $5 a download, and you just get the file. The only thing you can't do it is re-upload it or put it on a torrent site. Other than that, if you want to take it from your fucking PC, you put it on a USB, take it to your friend's house and watch it on the television. I don't care. I'm not going to come over after you for an extra $60 or however many people you watch it with. It's yours. You know, you gave me $5. I'm happy. You get to watch it and have a laugh. The world spins. I'm not concerned about this type of stuff like these video game lobbyists are, because I'm not trying to rob you.
If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
He was literally watching the video earlier where it says it won't do that in big letters.
It absolutely wouldn't. Warhammer Age of Reckoning is the biggest shining example of this. The game was shut down. Volunteers built their own private servers, and it's running. And it runs well, and the people that are playing it are happy with it. But they are constantly worried about getting a cease and desist that would shut them down. That would be perfectly legal, and the video game company would be in their rights to do so. And the company that made it is EA, so I would be shitting bricks every 10 minutes. But yeah, I just think that trying to stop a consumer rights initiative before it even gets off the ground is an incredibly bitter and insane thing to do. And that's what this PirateSoftware guy has done, is he's misunderstood the initiative entirely and is literally campaigning against it. He went on record saying, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that this does not get enough signatures. And ironically, thanks to how unlikable PirateSoftware is, that's a huge reason why this petition has gotten so many signatures. I mean, I didn't know about it until an obnoxious clip of PirateSoftware came up on my feed, and I thought, who is this dork? Why is he trying to stop me from owning things I pay money for? And then I went to sign it. If I lived in the EU, I would sign it, but I'm Australian, so I'm asking you to do it. All my Belgium fans out there, Belgian-ish? German. All right, I'm an idiot. Is Belgium in Germany? Yeah, it is. It's a country in North... All right, my editor is from Europe. Mate, you can put that in the video, but if you do, all right, you have to sign the petition. That's my price. Now, PirateSoftware has obviously been very disappointed by the many signatures the petition he tried to stop has accrued, and a lot of people think that's very funny, myself included, and a lot of people have pointed out that despite being absolutely ethered by every single commentator and the founder of the movement themselves about misunderstanding the initiative entirely, PirateSoftware has not backed down in any way, shape, or form. He is the eternally correct man who cannot be wrong.
Every job I ever held, trying to say that I never worked them, or if I did work them, that I never deserved them. So I'm going to be honest with you. I hope that your initiative gets everything you asked for, but nothing you wanted.
Damn, what a really cool bar that he definitely thought of in the shower and then wrote down later and said, I must say that on stream to nail the clip so I look cool. Yeah, dude, a few fucking incel, weird, bitter, nerd gamer guys were mean to you, so I don't deserve consumer rights. Cool argument, brother. What I would say is I think that it is incredibly important to protect video games and make sure that they remain playable even after they are supported by the developers. I think it's important from a cultural standpoint. Video games are art. It's something that we make and people put their love and their lives into, developers. Why would we take away the ability for people to learn about the development of video games? People 100 years from now, they should have the ability to have a look at the abysmal failure that was Anthem. Before I go, I'll give you one last example of why I think this is important, and it involves my favorite game, the best video game I've ever played in my life. It is a much lesser known, little, small, independent video game called Monday Night Combat. I played it on release. I became so cracked at that game that I became famous among the community. People would leave games when I joined. That's how good I got at it. There are forum posts accusing me of hacking. That's how fucking good I was at the game. That's how much I played it. I loved playing the assault character and just destroying people and gloating about it and being a toxic person. It was my favorite game that I ever played, and it was one of the only times I ever truly reached master level status in any video game. I loved it. The game unfortunately died. The community dwindled, and it got to a point where the developer of the game, I think even the developer themselves, have shut down, right? They don't even exist anymore. But the game was never taken down from Steam. I still have it downloaded on my computer. It was not taken away from me. And every couple years, what I like to do is I like to re-download the game or start it up if it's already on my computer and I like to just jump in and walk around the world. There's no servers anymore. I can't play with anybody else unless it was in a LAN setting. But I love being able to jump in the game and letting this huge wave of nostalgia hit me, listening to the music, jumping through the different characters, shooting the guns, playing around with the bots. It's just something that brings a lot of value to my life that I would sorely and dearly miss if one day I woke up and it was just taken away from me because it wasn't profitable for a video game developer to let me play with an item that I paid for, right? This is what I'm talking about. This is why it's important. World of Warcraft at some point will shut down. I've been playing that game since 2006. And when I'm 90 years old in the dementia ward, I want to be able to wander around Westfall on a private server and all of a sudden start to remember my own name because I hear the music in Elwyn Forest or whatever. These are important things. Preserving art, preserving history, being able to use items that we've paid money for. This is just a consumer rights issue, but it also helps us retain art that we make, and that's incredibly important. No one questions the legality or goes after publishers of books because someone's torn out a few pages or added in drawings or written something offensive in a book that I purchased secondhand. Why would that be a threat to video game developers? This is not about protecting me from bad actors after a game stops being profitable. The reason why game developers don't want this to go ahead is because they do not want us to own anything we pay them money for, because that is more profitable for them. And that is wrong. So, support the initiative, stop killing games, like, subscribe, come and see me live, and I'll talk to you soon.